It's happening, guys. Wrap your head around it.
Dennis Schroder famously turned down an $80 million plus contract from the Lakers because he thought he could get a better deal elsewhere. Turns out he was very wrong. Ended up signing with the Celtics for about $6 million. That led to a wealth of jokes at his expense. So he decided to go the other way. Say, you know what? I welcome the jokes. It's my birthday. So air it out. You can air me out. I want to put this stuff behind me. And everyone said, you know what? Good for you, Dennis. You've really embraced it. And I agree, because nothing embraces the fact that you lost, let's say, about $74 million. Then posing in Dior sneakers, a bunch of Dior luggage, a Bugatti, and a Rolls Royce. Yeah, I'm sure he's totally fine with fumbling the bag. That's why this ostentatious display of wealth and luggage is letting me know. So congratulations. I'm sure you're cool with it. You totally got me fooled. I buy it. You don't mind it at all. Let me just get in my Bugatti and the luggage goes in the front. Sure, sure.
Wild or Broussard, because you guys both have done some NBA reporting, is he also suing Rich Paul for not taking money when Rich didn't represent him, or is that only a Nerlens thing? I don't know. Is that, like, how's that one work? I'm not sure. Is Clutch getting sued for that one?
Another marriage.
No?
You're gonna get two marriages.
I was told not to discuss anyone's Blazers, and we just start right there. No, we don't. We actually start this morning with some really interesting water cooler talk out of the NBA, which, by the way, starts in just over a month already. Can't believe the season's right here. So we're talking about Kyrie Irving as he continues to work his way back from ankle surgery this offseason. Nick, you reported this last night. You tweeted there are a handful of Kyrie trades that potentially make sense for the Nets. Kyrie's agents have made it known that Kyrie would simply, quote, retire from the NBA if Brooklyn were to trade him. Well, Kyrie saw this, responded to this with that right there, a puppet. To which you then responded, Kyrie, if you're saying you didn't say you'd retire if you were traded, then your beef is with your representation, not with me, because you and I both know that's what they have told people. So, Nick, busy night on the old Twitter for you. Take us through what you're hearing.
Yeah, Kyrie, I mean, listen, I really didn't appreciate him interrupting the rare Wednesday night date night I had with my wonderful wife, but listen, occasionally I put on the journalism hat, and by the way, I might start putting it on more often. For every list Chris Broussard makes, I'm gonna break a story. How about that? A little tit for tat, my friend.
Oh, that's over there.
See how you like it, and shoes on the other foot. That actually probably is not true, because I occasionally practice some journalism, but that's not really the lane. Yeah, that's not really the lane I live in. But everything I said is absolutely 100% accurate, and I want to make this clear. The Nets were not calling around shopping Kyrie Irving. But as teams are, very frequently do in the offseason, around the draft, after the draft, they call around and say, hey, this guy available, this guy available. And the league knows what we all know, which is, as brilliant of a player as Kyrie is, once they acquired James Harden, he is, for that Nets team, a little redundant and expendable if you could get the right package. And you could get a hell of a package for Kyrie Irving. And the news was the following, that there were a few teams that when they inquired about Kyrie, they were told they were not immediately rebuffed. It was not, no sense in even having the discussion, untouchable, which is a departure from where the Nets and Kyrie were, call it 12 months ago. And so for those teams, they, started talking and figuring out, okay, is there a package we can put together to see if we could acquire the great player that is Kyrie Irving? That all ground to a halt when Kyrie's folks made it clear if the Nets were to ever trade him, he would simply retire. And that more than cooled the waters, that chilled and iced the waters, and it basically put an end to any of this. So I am not reporting or saying the Nets were calling around the league saying anybody want Kyrie. That is not what happened. But when folks inquired Broussard about Kyrie, it was clear that, he might be able to be gotten, which is different than a position we were in a year ago. And then Kyrie's representatives, which is the word I should have used in the first tweet instead of agents, representatives made it clear, you trade for Kyrie at your own peril. because if he were to be traded from the Nets, he would simply walk away from the game. So that's what I'm reporting. I don't know what Godfather reference it has to do with a marionette and puppet, but that's the news as of this morning, Broussard.
Well, first of all, Nick, let me welcome you to the world of NBA reporting. But, bruh, it's mean out in these streets. It's mean out in these streets, so get ready. No, look, I think I'm more of a fan of Kyrie and his game than Nick. All right? He could be traded. I'm not saying they will trade him. I'm just saying he's not one of those guys that's absolutely untouchable. All right? And that's for one reason, and it's really that he's unreliable. Not because of his game, but because of, number one, he's been injury prone. And that goes way back before the NBA, of course. At Duke, he only played 11 games. He's been injury prone throughout his NBA career, and 4 times he has missed either the entire postseason or significant chunks of the playoffs, including, of course, last year. Yeah. Secondly, the reason he's not as reliable is his quirkiness. He took weeks off at a time last year for undisclosed personal reasons. Now, I'm told that he's talked that over with the Nets. They've kind of settled on things. He's, been understanding and apologetic to some degree, at least, with the Nets brass, and they've worked that out. However, that is a part of the package that comes with Kyrie Irving. So, sure, I'll listen. They're not shopping him, as Nick said, but I'll listen, especially, and Nick mentioned in his tweet that a few trade scenarios make sense. Well, I'm not saying you do these for sure, but they're worth considering. Ben Simmons, Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal. Those are worth considering, listening to. So that is not the surprise that the Nets would do their due diligence and be willing to listen. Now, as far as the retirement, Nick, I've heard for years from players and front office people that have told me, look, don't be shocked if one day Kyrie stuns the world and just out of the blue retires. Yeah. I mean, I've been told that from players and people in front offices. And so, that's always something out there, again, because of Kyrie's quirkiness. I did speak with someone close to him last night, Wilds, and they told me they'd highly doubt that he would retire. However, to Nick's point, if the Nets are talking about trading him, it's certainly not beyond, some representative to say, hey, he will stop playing basketball if you move him, because Kyrie Irving loves being at home in New Jersey, and I'm sure he doesn't want to leave.
Yeah, I think he has an emotional connection to the Nets. He grew up a Nets fan, and there's 2 super surprising things to me, Nick, that came from your report. One is that he doesn't have a no-trade clause. I just assumed he had a no-trade clause. He does not, so that was a shocker. So a little bit of the retirement is you can sort of bake in a no-trade clause. Like, yeah, you can trade me, but I'm going to retire. So all of a sudden you do have a no-trade clause. The other thing is this. I don't think the Nets need to get better. I don't think the Nets need to make moves. I think they need to do less movement. They were a Kevin Durant shoe size away from beating the Bucks. When the big 3 all played together, they were 11-3, and they're the preseason favorites to win the championship. So I understand Broussard's point about reliability, but all of that being said, they still are the favorites to win the championship. Do you think that the Nets need to get better, and that's why they're listening, that they don't think they have enough to win a championship?
Well, I think, I know they believe they have enough to win a championship. Everyone believes they have enough to win a championship, whether or not, you guys, I think they're the favorites. I happen to think the team that beat them and won the championship and has arguably the best player in the world, and Milwaukee's the favorites. But nobody thinks, if Brooklyn stands pat, what are they going to do? They are either the best, second, or third best team in basketball by unanimous, acclamation. With that said, I do think the reliability part is a huge part. The availability part is a huge part. And I also think that once you acquire James Harden, Kyrie is, an amazing sports car, But you already have 2 sports cars that kind of do the same thing. You might need like an off-road vehicle for the weekend trips to Aspen, you know. And I apologize for comparing players.